Author Show, where we feature new authors and books, from fiction to self-help and everything in between. You'll find it all at theauthorshow.com. That's theauthorshow.com. And now let the show begin.
Hello and welcome back to the show. This is your host, Don McCauley. Today we're welcoming the program author Andrew Mann, and he is the author of Such Unfortunates. Andrew, how are you?
Good, Don. How are you?
Good. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
My name is Andrew, and I am from New Jersey. I grew up in southern New Jersey. I currently am in the solar industry as well as an author. I live in northern New Jersey right now, right outside of New York City. I'm a recovering addict, and I have devoted my life now to helping others in similar situations to mine.
So tell us about your book.
The book is about my life story, what I went through. I suffered a very abusive childhood growing up that was hidden. My family was wealthy, and we looked like the all-American family from the outside, but behind closed doors, there were unspeakable horrors going on, which led me to develop anxiety, depression, or just horrible mental illnesses for a child to deal with. And I was actually prescribed a very powerful drug at a young age, like similar to Xanax. And that led me to starting to become a drug addict. And throughout my life, it got worse and worse. And I went through eventually becoming addicted to opiates. And the book describes the trials I went through and how I was able to overcome that. And I want the book to be able to help people through being able to read that and use that for their own experience.
So who did you write your book for specifically?
I wrote it for anyone who is suffering with addiction or has a loved one that is suffering with addiction, and also other people who just want to understand why all these people are dying in our country and why so many people with so much to offer in life are throwing it all away for these drugs.
So could you say there's any type of central message or perhaps underlying theme that you would say runs throughout your books?
The theme is that when you see someone suffering from addiction, we focus too much on the drug aspect of it when we need to focus on the reason that person is using those drugs. That is the way to solve this opiate crisis, is to solve the problems they are dealing with that cause them to use drugs in the first place.
So if you had to choose, what would you say is the single most important idea you're sharing in your book that's really going to add value to the reader's life?
The single most important idea is that you can solve your opiate addiction by finding out what causes you to use the opiates in the first place. That can be an abusive childhood, it can be depression, anxiety caused by that, but getting into the root causes of what you need to focus on if you want to solve your addiction. And you will see that in my book, how by getting to the root cause of my addiction, I was able to solve it.
So if you could compare your book with any book out there we might already be familiar with, which book would it be and why?
Scar Tissue by Anthony Kiedis of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, or possibly Nikki Sixx's book, Heroin Diaries. The reason why is because they both went through similar childhoods, in similar abusive childhoods, which led them to becoming addicted to drugs, and they both became addicted to opiates. So there's very similar themes there and stories.
So what inspired you to write your book?
I had a counselor in a rehab that I was at ask me to write down a brief couple pages about my life. And when I showed it to her, she said, "Wow, this is amazing. You really need to write this down, and you should really write a book." And she was actually the second person that had said that to me. So when I actually got my life together, a few friends of mine that had died from this addiction, parents came to me and said, "How were you able to get clean and he wasn't?" And they wanted to know. And when I explained it to them, they were like, "Your story could really help others out. You should write a book." And that inspired me to write this book.
So what do you believe are the primary causes of addiction?
Well, the primary causes of addiction are an abusive childhood is number one. That is, when I looked at 95% of the people in rehab that were suffering, especially from opiate addiction, 95%, I'd say at least, had an abusive childhood, which led them to things like depression and anxiety, for which, if you're suffering from them, you're going to look to medicate that with something. And that leads them on the path to discovering opiates, which are pushed in our society by the big drug companies everywhere. So, and they do work very well to solve depression and anxiety. The problem is they make you an addict.
So why do you believe we have such a bad opiate crisis in this country?
There's three reasons, okay? The first is because of what I said about people having abusive childhoods. The second is corporate greed. The drug companies have pushed, even in 2007, after Purdue got a huge fine, which really was nothing compared to the profits, but that said that they were killing a bunch of people and that they were marketing their drugs, addictive drugs, to the American public. After 2007, after doing that, they actually increased their marketing to areas like West Virginia, Kentucky, and then in the 10 years after they received that fine and admitted what they were doing, they increased their marketing tenfold. The same strategy that gave doctors a financial incentive to promote these drugs, which is basically, to me, doing the exact same thing that drug dealers do on the street, except with a degree on the wall. The third reason is the war on drugs. The war on drugs, I've been on the front lines of it. It is not solving anything. We have lost the war on drugs. If anything, it's making the problem worse. It's not helping in any way. You combine those three and you get what we have, which is 70-some thousand people a year dying of opiate overdoses, which is more than the whole Vietnam War, Iraq, and Afghanistan all combined together every year in this country.
So what do you do if you know someone who can't stop using these things?
The first thing you need to do when you find someone that cannot stop using is they need to be detoxed, or they need to get into a program like methadone or Suboxone, because their body is physically addicted. Even if they wanted to quit, they can't. They'll get violently ill to the point, it actually can be dangerous for their health. So you need to either get them into a detox, a methadone clinic, or a doctor that will prescribe Suboxone. That is the first step you need to take. Nothing else can be done until they're physically stable and medically stable. So that is the first step you need to take. Then a process of either weaning them off, either if they're on methadone or Suboxone, weaning them off, detoxing them completely, or doing a maintenance phase. If they detox completely, great. They should go right into a rehab, because after you detox, your brain is still a mess. Once you're physically detoxed, you're going to have at least a month of not feeling right in your brain, where you're very vulnerable to relapse. The best place is in an inpatient treatment for this. So people, it's very important that they need enough time in treatment to get their head right before they come on the street. And if you're looking at maintenance for the longer, harder, higher users of opiates, methadone and Suboxone have a really good success. I think it's around 33%, which is about 10 times the success rate in rehab. I know they get a lot of bad names, but I've seen people's lives be completely changed by them, so I will never say anything bad about either one of those.
How difficult is it to stop?
Extremely difficult, extremely. To put it in perspective, I knew a woman that had brain, lung, and liver cancer, and she said the pain and everything she went through with that was nothing compared to trying to come off of opiates. She was in rehab, off of an opiate addiction. And I've also heard other people compare it to just the most awful experience in the world. And there's so many facets that my book goes into that you deal with when trying to stop. It's not just as easy as saying, oh, I'm just going to say no one day. It doesn't work like that. You've got a huge hill to climb to try to get off of opiates.
What's been your most rewarding experience since publishing your book?
Since publishing my book, I've had actually numerous people contact me saying that they have been inspired by my book to share stories of abuse they have gone through in childhood, which when you keep that inside just kills you. I also had a man say, by the honesty in my story and what I shared, he said, now I feel I can come out about being gay. He didn't want to tell any of his friends that he was gay. my story doesn't deal with homosexuality, but the honesty in it is that it motivated him. I've also had parents of addicts and addicts tell me that my story gave them hope. They had tried things such as AA and NA, and it just didn't work for them. Those groups can be great, but they don't work for everyone. And they got this belief that that was the only thing they could do. And if they failed at that, they might as well use drugs. And they said after reading my book, they were able to get hope for their life now. And that was so rewarding to hear that.
So how would you describe your writing style?
I would say I'm more to the point and more of a narrative and to the point, concise writing style I have. It's also informal. I have an informal style. It's a little expository, but I'd say narrative, concise, to the point would describe my writing style.
What part of your book would you say you personally like best?
The part I liked about my book the best was where all the people that I consider to be angels came to help save my life. And I've had everyone from judges to gang members to famous people's parents. I had Kelly Ripa's father, Joe Ripa, the talk show host. Her father helped me out a ton. He's a great man. I'll be always forever grateful to him. I've also had other people that have come into my life that have helped save my life in amazing ways. And as I pointed out the bad I went through in my life, I also pointed out the good too.
In your opinion, who should buy your book?
Anyone that is interested or knows anyone that is suffering from addiction or themselves is suffering from addiction, or anyone who wants to learn more about why people do what they do. A lot of people that are interested in memoirs and really gripping stories that are tough to read, but at the end will make you feel glad you did, is the main theme I've heard from people, that after they read it, they felt more hopeful in their life. And that was a great thing to hear.
Where can people purchase your book?
The book is on Amazon right now. It will be in bookstores in a month or two, but right now you can find it on Amazon.
This has been just great. Our guest today has been Andrew Mann, and he is the author of Such Unfortunates. Andrew, thanks very much for being with us today.
Thank you, Don. I really appreciate it. It was great talking with you.
This is Don McCauley wrapping up another